It's fair to say that Outbreak is an incredible new addition to Cold War zombies, and at this point you feel like you know the mode pretty well. But in this video, I'm going to be teaching you 10 secret tips and tricks that's going to instantly turn you into a 200 IQ player. Even if you think you know it all, you might learn something new in this video, so I definitely recommend you check out all the tips we've got to show you. And if you're new and enjoyed this, be sure to subscribe for more videos, and I heard if you do, you'll get a ray gun to drop on round 1 of Outbreak. I promise. But starting out with tip number 1, you're going to want to have the best weapon class setup for Outbreak, and this is of course the Hauer shotgun. Now you'll need to have this at a pretty high weapon level so you'll be able to have all these attachments, because this is what turns this from a typical shotgun into easily the best weapon in the entire game. Firstly, in your muzzle, you're going to want to make sure you have the infantry V choke selected. For barrel, you'll want to choose the 25.2 task force. Now what's crazy about this is there's a visual bug with the pros where sometimes it will show 50% damage and sometimes it will show 222% damage. This attachment alone makes this gun the god tier weapon that it is, so make sure you have that equipped. For body, you'll want the Ember sighting point. Magazine, you want the Stanag 8-round tube, and you'll want Marathon pad stock. Trust me, with this loadout, it makes any mode in zombies super easy. Jumping into tip number 2, this is how to upgrade the tier on your loadout to tier 5 for absolutely free. To do this, you have to be in a co-op game, it can't be solo, and you need to be on round 4 or above. Once you bleed out and you've spectated your other teammates for 60 seconds, you'll respawn back with 20,000 points and your loadout will be tier 5. If you're playing normally, you still wouldn't get enough salvage to be able to upgrade to tier 5 this quickly. If you don't have enough salvage and want to just bypass everything completely, then you can go ahead and try this trick out. Let's move on to tip number 3, which is all to do with loot chests. Around the map, as you're progressing through Outbreak, you're going to be finding a lot of loot chests that are going to have some great stuff inside. The higher you go, the more chance that those chests are actually going to be pesky mimics. But there's a way to tell when a chest is going to be a chest and when is actually a mimic. If you're ever in doubt, just look at the chest and press your ping button. If it's a real chest, it will be marked as a medium loot chest. But if it's not, your ping marker won't mark the chest. Instead, it will just mark the direction you're looking at. Don't let those mimics fool you guys, okay? Moving on to tip number 4, and this is incredibly useful, and this is to do with the death machine. In my opinion, in Outbreak, there is no other streak more useful than using death machines. And here is why. Every time you teleport to a new location with a death machine in your pocket, it doesn't matter how much ammo it's got, when you teleport to a new location, it will refill your death machine's ammo. As you see, I teleport with 190 bullets left in the death machine, and when I get to this new area, I'm back to 400 again. So whenever you need to use it, definitely use it, but make sure you save a couple of bullets left so when you teleport, you will get all of your ammo back. Moving on to tip number 5, we're going to start talking about objective tips, because there are some incredible strategies you can use to make certain objectives a lot easier. So for tip number 5, this is that you can change your field upgrade as many times as you want in a game by just choosing a different loadout from the pause menu. I can't recommend enough how important this is to change your loadout at the start of every objective depending on what objective you've got to do to make your life way easier. Now, if you've got a holdout or retrieve objective, I definitely recommend you use Ether Shroud, and especially if it's tier 5. For the retrieve objective, if you pop Ether Shroud just before you pick up the canister, it will give you that speed boost and some invincibility, making it easier to get to the rocket. Of course, being able to go invisible during the holdouts is definitely going to save your bacon. For the escort and defend objectives, I recommend you use Frenzied Guard, and for elimination, use Ring of Fire. And just remember, you're allowed to switch once during an objective round as well, so if you need to, feel free to do that too. A tip that a lot of people forget to do, even in normal round-based zombies. Now let's go over some more specific objective-based tips, starting with any holdout or defend objective. Now in the higher rounds, these can definitely start to get a little challenging, but there's some advice you'll definitely want to keep note of, and that's watching how much time you have left, because if you go down in the last 25 to 30 seconds of these objectives, you can literally just stay downed and not revive yourself until the timer is up, because there is no reason to revive yourself when you can stay downed, beat the timer, and obviously avoid having to deal with any zombies. If you go down with tier 3 or above tombstone, then you'll be down for 60 seconds, so you can definitely beat the time. Just remember to revive yourself in time. My next tip is specifically for those defend objectives, which also have an in-game timer. If you run away from these with about 20 seconds left and head towards where the anomaly will spawn, you'll save a ton of time, as it will be impossible impossible to fail it, as the zombies can't destroy the objective in the time that you have left. Especially if you're getting bombarded with a load of zombies, this tip is invaluable, but make sure to do it with a lot of health still remaining on the objective just in case. As I've done this on a pretty high round defending the uplink, and as you can see, I ran away from it where it just had very little health, and I filled this with 3 seconds left as they destroyed it right at the last moment. My next objective tip is for the retrieve objective. This is going to be to use a vehicle during the ether canister retrieve step. What you'd normally do is go up to sites A and B. You'll obviously have to wait for the canister to harvest, and then you'll have to slowly carry it all the way back to the rocket. But one way to speed this up infinitely quicker is to use a vehicle. The vehicle speed won't be limited by your movement speed like it normally does holding the canister, but the only downside is that it very slowly but surely starts taking away health on your vehicle. So by the time you drop the vehicle off to go and put this in the rocket, there's a chance that your vehicle will be very low health. So my best advice, do this with a vehicle that has full health. That way you have a very strong chance of being able to get both rockets with one single vehicle. Just be very careful of tempests when you're doing this with a vehicle, because all it takes is one of them to zap your vehicle and it's EMP'd and you're toast. You're going to have to go on foot. Now, these next tips are going to be focused solely on the different holdout rooms, because these are definitely the hardest objectives to do in Outbreak. Let's make your life a bit more simple and jump into Galova to start off with. Galova is without question the hardest of the 3 maps that you'll have on Outbreak, so we're going to give you a few tips to make surviving in here a little easier. The first trick I'm going to give you is a bit of a spawn manipulation trick that will help you out for the first minute or two. If you stay on one side of the room only with those 2 windows either side, you will only have zombies spawning through those windows. A majority of the time, there won't be any zombies that will spawn from the windows on the other side of the room, which in general will make this a lot easier. I wasn't lucky enough to get this in the footage, but if you can get your hands on a Ray K, combining that with the Howler will give you some incredible results, where you'll be able to use the slowing orb of the Ray K, slow down the multiple bosses that will be in this very small room in the later stages of the lockdown, making it way easier for you to take these bosses out. Furthermore, earlier with the field upgrade tips that I gave you, if you have Frenzied Guard here, this will be a lot easier, since you can basically make yourself invincible and give you full armor back after 15 seconds with the tier 5 version. We can take this one step further and show you a really cheeky spot on Galova. If you camp in the room with the ammo box and stand on the 2 shelves that are on either side of the room, zombies won't actually be able to hit you, and they'll do what they do best, throwing their body parts at you. Now, some of you may call this a glitch since the game thinks you're out of bounds, but technically you aren't. You're just mantling onto parts of the room. But this is so effective that sometimes megatons that spawn will actually jump back through the window they came and just stand outside of the barriers. If you agree with this type of gameplay style, definitely try this out, but otherwise keep it legitimate, then use the tips we provided you. Now, this same sort of trick works on the Alpine lockdown, where there are 2 bookshelves in the middle of the room. If you stand up on these, again, zombies are going to throw their bodies at you, but they won't actually be able to attack you. This definitely works better on solo than co-op, because co-op you can have multiple zombies potentially targeting one player that can easily equal it down. But I find staying on these shelves because there's a load of zombies, taking them out, and then when you need to, if there's a boss who has projectiles, popping off, doing a train round, taking them out, and then hopping back on the shelf. When it comes to the holdout on Ruka, you want to focus on the 2 main windows that are in front of you when you first spawn in, because zombies are only really going to be spawning from there. A bit like the spawn manipulation trick we showed you on Galova. Definitely on solo, stay downstairs for as long as possible, and then when the bosses start piling up, make your way up the staircase and just use that as your window to basically have the zombies funnel and make their way up to you. If you have monkeys or decoys, cook them and throw them over the staircase barricade. That way it will pile up all the normal zombies that are spawning in. Then you can either choose to take the zombies down by just, you know, firing on the staircase, or you can use that banister to jump over the stairs back downstairs, then funnel the zombies back down and take them out that way. And like we mentioned earlier, if you're having a tricky time with any of these lockdowns, remember, if you go down with quick revive, you have 30 seconds before you can revive yourself and get back up. If you have Tombstone, you could be down for 60 seconds. So if you're really having a tough time, then you can go down. And as long as you revive yourself in solo, by the time the timer runs out, then you should be all good. And in co-op, if you're downed when the time runs out, but you've got a self-revive or quick or anything like that, you'll get back up the moment the timer ends, which is really, really good. And honestly, it's not a bad way to play. You'll have a ton of points at this rate, so you'll be able to buy your perks back easily and get readjusted for the next wave. My final tip for this video is going to be the best alternate ammo types for each elite bosses, because as I'm sure you all know, certain ammo mods work better on certain enemies. Now, I'd recommend you always use Deadwire tier 5 if you have that fully upgraded throughout your journeys on Outbreak, because it's just so good at taking out crowds of zombies very easily, and it's super, super good for taking out megatons. So if megatons are your #1 concern in Outbreak, you'll want to run a weapon with Deadwire, as that will do the most damage to megatons. If you want to take out mimics and tempests, you're going to want to run brain rot. If you get incredibly unlucky with not getting a wonder weapon, you might want to consider perhaps running a secondary weapon with one of these alternate ammo types, just because the tempests are so annoying when you're trying to get around the map. If you want to specifically take out manglers quick, then napalm is going to be your ammo mod. And finally, to take out panzers, you're going to want to have the new Shatterblast ammo mod. That was 10 secrets and tips that every Outbreak player should know and will make you a much better player to survive much higher rounds in Outbreak. Just before you click off, if you learned anything new in this video, let me know in the comments and by dropping a like rating. If you want to share any more tips that I didn't give in this video, then the comment section is open to you. I'd love to read them, and I'll part some of the best ones and maybe even pin them. And finally, if you've been following my channel recently, you'll know that I'm taking part in G Fuel's March Madness, where me and 64 other creators are pitting up against each other to try and win the top spot, which is their own Shaker Cup. We're on a mission to try and get the world's first zombie Shaker Cup into existence on G Fuel's website. And so far, you guys have absolutely killed it. We've made it through to round 2. We're in the top 32. Now everything resets. And if you want to help us make this Shaker Cup a reality, then you need to order something off G Fuel's website using code Dalek. My code is currently 30% off everything on the website, and any purchase, big or small, helps us achieve that goal of the world's first Call of Duty Zombie Shaker Cup. If any of you do go ahead and buy anything with code Dalek, send me a tweet or an Instagram DM, as I want to thank you personally, and I'll keep you updated on how it goes. But thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.